So today we've talked about Microsoft.
Yeah.
We've talked about Apple and XR.
Yeah.
Today, Google.
I never heard of that company.
Never. Maybe we should Google it.
Yeah.
That was a really bad joke.
But it's true. Like, we use Google for everything. Like, there's even a website that's called Let Me Google That For You. And then what it does is you type something into it, and it will then go to Google and type everything into Google and search for you. Just because, like,
You just send that to people?
Yeah,
Like
it's
they
like-
ask you a question, just
like,
send them the link.
listen, dummy, you could just Google search it yourself, right? Like, it's gotten to the point where, like, yeah, it's a verb, but even it's like an expected action,
Google is the modern version of Kleenex. It's a verb.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like Google it. Well, Google's fascinating on many levels. It's got a lot of things going on. Most of you probably have it in your homes to some extent, or at least it's on the home screen of your computer. Google is everywhere. But is Google involved in XR? I think that's a question that we wanted to tackle today, and you and I were talking about it a little earlier.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to kind of like, your response to me about this whole thing was that you're not sure. Not sure, but
Yeah.
you have ideas, but there hasn't been a lot.
Yeah. I think we've been hearing a lot more from Apple rumors, and obviously there's always going to be a lot of people like talking about Apple rumors more than maybe Apple themselves. But there's been some leaks and things that have happened, and Microsoft has been like doing a lot out there, doing acquisitions, and they've been making some noise in terms of AR and VR and all the things going on. They just had their a conference as well. I haven't been hearing from Google. I haven't been seeing the big splashy like leaks or news or anything like that from Google in a little while. So it just makes me think something is going on. Maybe good, maybe bad. That what is going on with their XR strategy. I think there's either something really big brewing and is going to come out, or it might be a little bit similar to what Google's done in the past, where XR is kind of there and then it kind of got phased out, and then it's like, just put to the side. I'm not sure.
So it's either something or nothing.
Yeah.
It's all speculation, right? It's all speculation.
The most like obviously is like it's either something or nothing.
What do you think their interest in XR is? I mean, there's got to be something to some extent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gonna butcher their original credo of like to organize the world's data, right? Like they wanted to make all the information in the world readily searchable, and organized. So augmented reality, virtual reality, thus this digital content that exists within XR is data, and they want to be able to organize it and make it searchable and probably sell ads, when people are searching for that too. So I think in some way or form they need to be involved in all this. In what capacity, I just don't know. Like Apple is obviously going to produce like some super sexy, hardware device that we're going to buy, but maybe Google will do that, maybe not. I mean, even when you take a look at like Android, that's just the operating system. That's not the phone. Samsung makes the most popular phone that uses Android, and then there's a whole bunch of other companies that people may or may not really care for. There's like HTC, there's OnePlus, there's even Sony makes a cell phone, but who buys that? But Android is what's pervasive out there because of the way that Google set it up, that companies can just license that OS. And so they're enjoying that market share. And then they have the Google Play Store where they can sell like, apps and movies and songs and all that stuff. And they enjoy that because there's so many people that have Android. But they don't make the hardware. They make their Pixel phones, but like it doesn't have like huge market share. So I don't know if they're moving towards that direction of like we want to get more into hardware, we do want to control that destiny, um, but it hasn't taken off.
That's interesting you say that because you have, let's list out the giants. I'm probably going to miss some, but you have Microsoft, that you talked about how they were kind of the giant and then faded a little bit away back in 2007 in our last conversation.
Yeah.
You talked about how they, missed the boat on phones because they didn't think the phone was going to work. The smartphone was not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And that hurt them.
Yeah.
And Microsoft has kind of positioned themselves as, I think Apple called them, they're a productivity software company.
Yeah.
Right? Apple has mastered the art of what we referred to last time as building the railroads. They have the hardware.
Yeah.
Right? And they're very good at creating the hardware. Facebook, social media, data, human data,
Yeah.
venturing into hardware with Oculus,
Yeah.
Portal, and then you have Google. Talk to me about like, I think there's some stuff to talk about with those, like what everyone has in their arsenal.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what does Google have in its arsenal? Like what is its focused in comparison to these other giants?
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody has their thing that, gives them their strength. It's kind of like every superhero has their super ability and they got to use it to the best of their capability, right? Like Superman might be really strong, but the Flash is faster. I think Google has to do the best they can with Google search being, at the center of everybody's life. It's a verb. Their search capabilities has to be in the mix. And I mean, it's like they're number one and number two is what? I don't even know. Is it Yahoo, which is really Microsoft? Bing? Like who says I'm going to Bing something? Like nobody does that. It's like I'm going to Google something. So I think they have like, a feather in their cap. They have that as an ace, right? So that has to be in the mix. And I see even on their phones, they have something called Google Lens, which I don't think many people use, but that's their visual search.
I use it a lot.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I use it with plants.
Okay. All right. Well, I stand corrected.
Someone had said one time, because I'm big, I love like decorating my backyard.
Yeah.
But I'm not a landscape designer, so I kind of steal ideas. I'm a great idea thief when it comes to landscaping.
Yeah.
So when I go to resorts around the Orlando area, I look at like, oh, I like that. What is that? And I'll pull out my Google Lens and take a pic and like kind of scan it.
Yeah.
And it has like a little white dot that appears.
Yeah.
Tap it and it searches, and I'm able to find what kind of plant it is, so I can plant it. It is.
Yeah.
Plant it is, so I can go buy it and put it in my backyard.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense.
And I've done it with furniture too.
Okay.
Somewhere I see a chair or something. Where do you buy that? And I scanned it. It's a little harder with that kind of stuff, but you do end up finding at least things that are like similar to it. But yeah, I totally use it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I stand corrected. Then you're using it today.
I am the only one.
Right. but the thing is, just it existing, just its capability being there means that Google is looking at that data.
Yeah.
And I always envision that Google Lens, instead of it being its own standalone app, or even just like a section that you have to activate in the Google camera within, your Android phone, that it would just be seamless and totally integrated. And I guess with Apple phones, with iOS devices, they're not going to integrate into Apple's camera. Like they won't have access to that, but they'll have it as a separate app. So I think that element of like their ability to control search with Google Lens being a way to do visual search will be a key part of their XR strategy. And then, they have their data center, Google Cloud, which competes with Microsoft Azure and Amazon AWS, which is number one in the market. So they have this massive data center. And then they have their other, associated services like Gmail and Google Suite and all that. But really all of that stuff is a means to acquire more data, understand their users better so they can like better serve ads that still makes up like 60% of their revenue, I think. So it's not going to go away, but I think like those are key things that are within Google's arsenal, and they're starting to dabble in some hardware, but I think it's a case of let's just see what's going to happen, because like they acquired Nest, like the Nest sensors, so it's more of like home automation, understanding what's happening in a person's home, which in turn lets you understand when they leave for work, when they come back, what temperature do they like it, right?
Like, yes, it's funny, I'm an Apple guy.
Yeah.
My ecosystem when it comes to work and home, it's Apple.
Yeah.
But I have Nest, and I went against Amazon. I think I like going against the big one.
Yeah.
In some cases. And I couldn't figure out, do I want to go Amazon or Google when it comes to like your Google Home or Amazon, what do you call it?
Oh, Echo? Alexa?
Yeah. Alexa. I went with that, and it's okay. We use it a lot for how do you spell?
Yeah.
This.
How do you spell?
How do you spell?
My people have no problem with this. We're like back spelling bee champions. So
I'm gonna call you up now.
Yeah.
Hey Kunal, how do you spell indubitably?
Yeah.
But I love going, hey Google, make the temperature in the house this, and it like connects with the Nest, and I like that piece of it. But now, so you have the giants here. You have what was the first one I said? Microsoft.
Yeah.
They have the productivity software in Office. They have Skype. They have Xbox, which obviously is a direct tie-in to XR gaming and all that.
Yeah.
You have LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is huge. Yeah.
And they're eyeing now Discord.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah. It's not confirmed, but I mean, like, there's enough people that are saying like, hey, this is a thing. But I mean, there's a $10 billion deal for Discord, which is, definitely perking up everybody's ears. And especially, a lot of us within the gaming community, we use Discord for fun as well as like even for communicating in the office, right? And like here at the Game Space, like we use that. At BrandXR, we use that. And we're not sure what's going to happen. Like, are they going to like, harm our baby, like what we like enjoying and using? I guess if you like Teams, you're just going to see more Teams features come in. But I think it might just be a way to fortify their gaming initiatives, like Xbox is like, successful for the most part in terms of like having gamers, having, things that can engage people, and people are using Discord to live chat back and forth. Like that's maybe the better route. Skype's brand hasn't been doing too well, right? So like,
which is shocking to me. It was theirs to lose.
Yeah.
The way Zoom came in, Skype should have had that.
Well, I think that's the fear that some people have when Microsoft touches something. It's like, are you going to actually take care of this baby? Is it going to become better? We don't know, because like, there's been multiple Microsofts throughout the years. There's like the Microsoft in the 90s, the early 2000s, and then, the one we have now. And it's so strange. Like the one that we see now kind of seems like they more want to be our friend. And we're just looking to make the world a better place and help humans achieve their best potential. Like, whereas, maybe that wasn't the case in the past.
I'd hate to stay on Microsoft, but I because this is about Google.
Yeah.
But I think about like, man, you have it all right there.
Yeah.
You have LinkedIn, so you have a professional platform.
Yeah.
For professionals that don't have really nowhere else to go.
Right.
I mean, they can go to other places, but that one is specifically niched on in the professional world. And you have Skype, which should be competing with Zoom, and should be integrated, much like Facebook has Messenger with video.
Right. And then Google has like
LinkedIn should have Skype as their main. They even had, they had to have so many TV deals. I saw Skype, you see it on the computer screens in movies when there's, video conferencing. So you have all of that. They got Discord coming up. They got Office that could integrate into, like Google Docs into LinkedIn as well. There's, along with their Sales Navigator on LinkedIn. Like there's such a opportunity there that I feel like I've been waiting for them to take advantage of. But I want to
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is key in that, like, you see how all of the giants have, their special abilities and things like that, and how are they going to use them together to maybe fight off their competitor? And I think that's like valid, like you see what Microsoft is doing, and in some way, Google is going to have to go against that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Google, they had Nest for home tech, and then they're buying other pieces of hardware companies too, because they don't make hardware themselves. They're a software company, and they have to do this because they have to fight against Microsoft, which created this Surface line of computers. Microsoft traditionally did not make hardware other than keyboards and mice, and Apple obviously makes hardware. Every player has now entered into hardware. Whether they're going to succeed at it or not, we don't know.
Right.
And I mean,
what was Google's some of their stuff that they've done in XR already?
Yeah.
Whether it's still going, it's been canned.
Yeah.
Like, what's their history with XR?
So they've been doing a lot over the years. Credit to them, they have like pushed the ball in a lot of ways. Like, so there was Google Cardboard, if you remember that. Mm-hmm. It's a piece of cardboard where you just slid your phone in. Probably costs it costs basically nothing to make.
It was like $10, wasn't it?
Like $10.
Yeah.
The really premium ones, like, I don't know, cardboard that didn't have pizza grease on it.
Premium cardboard
Yeah.
pizza boxes.
It'd be $20. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, but that got people to go and try and go, oh wow, they're so cool, and they look around, and that little bit kind of like sparked more interest into it, and maybe that paved the way for Facebook and Oculus to really run with it, and then that opened the door for some other dabbling into, like, these things that we have here, the Google Daydream right here. I mean, these were very nice headsets, by the way, like really nice cloth. I enjoy running my hand across it. I mean, like, it was great. But, like, what did they do? They, ultimately decided to kill it. They were like, okay, it's not working well. Not enough people are buying it. We got enough data from it. And I think it's met its need. And then you know what they did with it? That's what they did. It serves no value. We don't develop for it anymore, so toss it. But
did it break?
No, it's still good. It's basically a paperweight, like a paperweight today. There's nothing else we can do with it. It's not supported for developers. You can't really make content for it. It was a really nice headset. I really wish they had stuck with that. It would have been the low-cost option for people to get into VR headsets. However, Google does what Google does. They tried it. They got some data out of it. They saw how it worked. And then whatever they're doing underneath the surface of, like, whatever their next plan is. And so, they're not going to compete against Oculus in terms of VR. In terms of AR, people may remember Google Glass. Like, it was like this, it wasn't even really glasses. It was just like a frame, missing lenses, and then it had like a little protruding, like almost like looks like a prism that's in front of your eye, and it's just presenting data to you, like what time it is, how many emails you got, and things like that. It wasn't true AR in the way that people thought, where they would see like full colored holograms in front of them. Mm-hmm. But even their promo video that they had for it was like mind-blowing. People were like, oh my God, my life will never be the same again.
It was almost like they were giving you a vision of what could be.
What could be.
And we're close enough to make a product that can at least dabble in that.
Yeah. They are really selling the next several generations ahead. And thinking through of like, oh, all that juicy data that's going to be in there. Like, oh man, you're walking past like this music venue. Let's try to sell you some tickets, right there. So that they're kind of selling this vision of what a convenient life that you can now have with, AR. And hey, you just have to be wearing this Google Glass. But ultimately, it didn't take off in the way that they thought it would. Mm-hmm. And they didn't 100% kill it, but they kind of put it off to the back, and maybe only some enterprise companies were using it, like maybe in manufacturing or something. But I mean, it's not going to compete in anything major. The true XR, if they're going to get into that, is going to be something else.
So they're clearly not afraid to put things out there to kill it. There's a website called killedbygoogle.com where you can see the graveyard of everything that Google has destroyed. But they keep one thing consistent, it seems like: anything that collects data.
Anything that collects data.
Good.
Yeah.
Is it data or data?
You know, I don't know if this, I don't know like what makes a person go data or data. You and I both.
What did I say?
You said data and I said data. I don't even remember. I don't know why I say one or the other.
Is that weird?
What do you say?
Seriously, what do you guys say? And what did I say? I need to go back and watch this now.
You know, it's one of those. So, like, I mean, I grew up in Detroit. You grew up in Detroit.
Just outside, yeah.
So I don't. Why didn't we say the exact same word?
I have no idea. Something
in our lives has like diverged and made us this way. But anyways, it's all about data or data, however you say it. That Google will dabble into it, and whether they'll stick with it or not, I don't know. If it's still going to give them the same level of insight.
Yeah. So they chase after data. I should say data.
Yeah.
Google Docs. I use Google Docs exclusively. I have Office on my computer just so if I need to, I use it. But
Same.
I prefer to use Google Docs. It's just easier. I know there's a lot of depth, like in Excel and stuff like that. I think that Sheets, is it Google Sheets?
Sheets, yeah.
That it can't do. But I've never done anything I've never used Google Docs or any of the productivity documents ever without going, oh, I wish it did this. So it's free, but I also know I'm giving up information for it. Gmail, I know they're reading my Gmail. They are an advertising agency that uses your data to understand what they should be advertising. That's their moneymaker. Hardware, it seems like they dabble in it. Phone is probably the most aggressive one, I would say.
Yeah.
But they're still not the top one there. They've gone after this kind of stuff. YouTube, what do you think YouTube plays in XR in that role? Because I tell this to my kids. YouTube, in many ways, is it bigger than Facebook? Because I feel like YouTube will never go away.
Right.
Facebook, maybe it's because I grew up during the MySpace era, that nothing is nothing's guaranteed.
Forever? Yeah,
nothing's forever.
Yeah.
And thank God that went away. The glitter pages, the 5 minutes to download, like people would just stuff their pages with GIFs and fireworks, glitters, unicorns.
It's a remnant. I don't know. I was like a remnant of the mid '90s in GeoCities. Like if anybody remembers that, but
YouTube has been the constant, and it has been something that people pursue.
Mm-hmm.
People continue to make money on. It still represents, in my case, I don't think YouTube TV even represents what TV is going to be.
Right.
I think there's so many creators that are leveraging YouTube, and yes, they're leveraging all the other platforms, but there's like this feeling of a strong foundation with YouTube. And that being said, I can go on my I can go on my Oculus, I can go on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, what do you think YouTube is going to play in the future of Google and XR?
Yeah. Well, I think like this goes towards, what are the things in your arsenal, the weapons in your arsenal that you have that nobody else has? What is your unfair advantage? And I mean, Google has a few of them, that has like their install base of Android. So maybe, hardware wise, Pixel phones don't outnumber iPhones. If you add up all the Android phones, they outnumber Apple, right? And, you have to count Samsung and HTC and Sony and all the other tiny players all together, but collectively they got more than Apple. YouTube, I think it's the #1 visited website in all of the internet. I don't know. I think it's more than Facebook. But I mean, everybody has a reason.
We're going to find that out.
We'll find out. And we'll display the stats. But like,
and age-wise too. My kids.
Yeah.
They're obsessed with YouTube.
It's universal.
They would rather sit and watch. We have a whole series of types of videos, from People Are Awesome to Try Not to Laugh. to
Yeah.
like all these different things that people are curating this creative content.
Yeah.
And if it comes down to watching a show or watching YouTube, they will always choose YouTube.
Yeah.
And this is my 12-year-old. This is my 17-year-old.
Yeah.
This is me, my wife.
Yeah.
We're not going to say ages.
Yeah.
But we all like it.
Yeah.
And we will all sit and just consume.
Google has figured it out. YouTube's team has figured it out. Like, for better or worse, like, yeah, we are hooked on YouTube because, like, what plays next is all related to an algorithm, and they know what you've watched in the past, what you watched just prior, and probably what you may want to watch next. So, like, they've figured out how to, like, keep you hooked. And I think, yeah, YouTube is one of those things where it is Google's unfair advantage in this entire war on XR, where maybe they don't have the hardware prowess that other ones do. Everybody is going to want YouTube. So Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, anybody else, all the big giants will all have to go to YouTube and Google and say, like, we'd love to work with you. So in those instances, those meetings, they're frenemies, right? In other instances, they're enemies. But they all have to work with YouTube. And there's no other way around it. And so Google has that to their advantage for sure.
So this is interesting, and I've been thinking a lot on the arsenal aspect of it. Like, what's the superpower of each one?
Yeah.
No doubt, I feel like Apple is going to come out with a sexy VR headset.
Yeah.
That's going to be overpriced or maybe to some perfectly priced.
Yeah.
But it's going to be the expensive version, and you're going to get a little something extra that you're probably not going to get with the Oculus, or if Google comes out with something they do, or and then Microsoft is going to have maybe even a more tiered system of different ones. What do you think? If software, if like foundational software that is shareable, that is open for other people to use, do you think that is their play? Do you think that they're going to come in and treat this like an Android, where they're going to create the operating system and they're going to open it up to hardware making companies that are going to like then create their, like, so for Sony or whatnot, they're going to create their own VR head? Well, Sony's got PlayStation.
Yeah.
But LG, let's just say,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
LG comes out with its own headset, but it's going to use the Android platform. Do you think that is their play? Where do you think, based on their arsenal, Google is going to go with this?
I think, again, everything goes back to data. I think, when you do applications, like a lot of us will make games, we'll make apps, we'll make multiple types of products here. BrandXR, we're building a platform. We have to work with the APIs that Amazon and Google and Microsoft and all of them have. And, a lot of times this stuff is free to a certain level. And when you start exceeding that, they start charging you, sometimes fractions of a penny for every piece of like data you pull in to your application, or data that you send back to them, or an image that you might store on their servers. I think this is a case where, there's this gold rush, if I'm going to use that kind of analogy, like the gold rush. They're not after necessarily the gold, they're interested in selling people shovels. Like, oh, you want to go get the gold? Okay, like, buy my shovel, it's very affordable. And then all these people are going to go out there hunting for gold, and then Google will be making all this money with their shovels, so to speak. So when they have all the APIs and they have the tools that you need, like for example, like AR Core is their software, their SDK that they've created for computer vision and augmented reality. That's software that could be put into phones, game engines, things like that. They have their Google Cloud where they can store images, they can run servers and compute things, and they have APIs for YouTube. So if you want to stream YouTube videos, or you want to use Google Maps, all that stuff is data, and there's data caps. And so like if you need to use that, then they're going to charge you for it. And then this way, so it's like in the end, whether it's their brand that wins or not, maybe doesn't matter to them, because you're going to have to come back to Google and pay for their API usage. And so maybe they'll make money because underneath it all is Google. Like, I think so. I think it could be an infrastructure play.
So this is like a slow and steady wins the race.
Kind of, yeah. Being in gaming, we kind of saw a little bit of this with Stadia, Google Stadia. Like, it came out like guns a blazing. Hey, we're coming up with the studio and making games and stuff like that, and they just announced they killed that. Another thing killed by Google. But I think that's going to be again another infrastructure play. Like, why do Google's probably thinking like, why do we need to make games? We'll just have the infrastructure for it. Other game developers can use our stuff and stream games to the players. So I think this is going to be, slow and steady wins the race. All of us out there are just going to be looking at the buzz of hardware coming out, cool logos and things like that. But like in the end, if more API calls are made to YouTube, somebody's paying that bill.
What do you think Google's next play is going to be in XR? Is it going to be hardware? Is it going to be just the operating system? Let us know in the comments below. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.